Hi. When I first heard of the issue of cultural appropriation back in the 1980s, it struck me as obviously absurd. I certainly never expected it to go mainstream. I am largely Irish genetically, so if you read a book by James Joyce, you owe me something for it? Me? Your ancestors were partly German, so if I enjoy a Beethoven symphony, I owe you some money? By that same logic, too, if one Jewish merchant cheats me, all Jews owe me something. If one black mugs me, all blacks must pay. This is a perfect example of racism of the worst sort. But let's hear the opposition out. Graham Hamilton wrote a while ago in the National Post explaining the problem with cultural appropriation. He quotes Lenore Kishig Tobias saying that, quote, "The Canadian cultural industry has been stealing native stories as surely as the missionaries stole our religion and the politicians stole our land and the residential schools stole our language." Now her complaint contradicts itself. She argues that schools stole something from Indians by teaching them, yet whites are stealing from the Indians by learning from them. It can't work both ways. And she wants Canadians to read more Indian authors. But if Canadians read Indian stories, aren't they stealing them? And aren't the Indian authors stealing the mainstream culture from their readers? Reading anything you did not write is just larceny all around. Peter Kolchiski, a professor at the University of Manitoba, chips in on appropriation. Quote, "By simply saying, 'Oh, we love your culture. We'll have you dance during our Olympic ceremony. We'll have you say a prayer before our meetings.' But we haven't actually substantially changed the fact that the economy is based on extraction from your lands. And we're going to continue doing that. Basically, it becomes at best a hollow gesture, and at worst, your culture becomes something for sale." End quote. This again argues strongly against buying anything written by Aboriginal authors. Their culture, after all, is not for sale. Unless it is suppressed, then, it must be free for the taking, right? Just as other cultures always have been. So cultural appropriation is the only moral choice. Kishig Tobias's final ironic word on appropriation is, quote, "Your imagination comes right up to my nose, and if it goes any further, then I push back." A novel use of the old legal principle, which in case you don't know it, is, "Your right to swing your fist ends right where my nose begins." But Kishig Tobias here again immediately contradicts herself. What could be more obvious than that nobody's imagination can ever connect with Kishig Tobias's nose? Accordingly, there is no such offense as cultural appropriation. Rex Murphy has pointed out, rightly, that empirical science is a European invention. Any Aboriginal, then, who drives a car, or has a TV, or central heating, while complaining of white cultural appropriation, is a perfect hypocrite. If cultural appropriation is a bad thing, moreover, it is obviously Indians who have done it most extensively. But of course, cultural appropriation is a very good thing. It's called civilization. Any living culture continually assimilates the best it can find from any source. How British is tea? It comes from China. How American are hamburgers? They come from Germany. Cultural appropriation is progress.